Good evening, everyone. I hope the audio and video visible are clear to everyone. Can you please confirm if everything is clear to you? Can we start with the session? Okay, that's great. Uh, Welcome to everyone. This is R.H. Chandra from Career Revenues, New Delhi. This is a session which we are having in with respect to the new gate exam, which the next month's gate exam, gate 2021. The idea of this particular session is mainly to give you some tips for the last few days which are left out before the exam. So this webinar will be mainly divided into four areas, four main categories. The first category is we'll be focusing on some general tips with respect to the syllabus. So let me just give you an idea. I'll try to note down the points as well so that you can have them for your future reference as well. So the seminar will be of four main categories. The first one is tips regarding the syllabus. Some important points which you have to remember with respect to the syllabus for the exam. And the second is mainly with respect to the revision before the exam. So we'll discuss some important points regarding the syllabus, then some tips, some important points regarding the revision before the exam, and thirdly, we'll be looking into some tips to be followed during the exam, and finally, we'll be looking into some general points or general tips which you have to remember. So if you see, so the webinar will be focusing first. This portion is for your self preparation before the exam. So this is pre-exam points to be remembered for these last 15 days. We are left out with 15 days exactly, right? So few tips regarding the syllabus at this point of time, how to revise your topics at this point of time. See that these are the recommendations or guidelines for you to be remembered, to have it in your mind before the exam. Then exam tips is basically for the gate exam on the day of the exam, that is on February 6th of 2021. So that is few points regarding the date of the exam on the day. This is on the exam day, and some general points to be remembered before and also during the exam. After the exam is relatively simple, but yeah, I'll touch on some points which you have to remember for your post exam as well. What to do after the exam and what to plan after the exam. So we'll end that in the conclusion. On the conclusion, we'll be discussing some points post exam, what to do after your exam. So that's the idea of this webinar. Mainly your our focus will be on the pre-exam part because we're left out with 15 days, and I know for all those who have been preparing for the exam, for all those who are attending the exam, gate exam this year, uh, you must always, you might already be nervous at this point of time. Ki 15 din bacha, only 15 days are remaining. What to do in these last 15 days, right? So that is what we'll mainly focus in this particular seminar or this webinar. To start with the first part, some important points you have to remember with respect to the syllabus. So regarding the syllabus, the points you have to remember, as you all know, firstly, let me tell you the point which most of you are concerned about. That is with respect to old and new syllabus. We have already, for all the students associated with us, and also for students who are following us on all the platforms, be it on Facebook, YouTube, we have been always in touch with everyone, and we are always informing you. Even though that the structure of the syllabus is new, the topics are more or less the same. There are no major additions in terms of new topics or new uh, uh, points written in the syllabus. Yeah, for sure, there are some new words added in the syllabus, but the content which is being which has been added, that is not something which is new. You do already had questions from that part in the exam previously too, so there's nothing to worry about the new syllabus or old syllabus. So do not confuse yourself by going through old and new syllabus. Just be clear in your mind that there is no major new topic added focus on, be confident on your preparation on the syllabus which you have been already in touch with for all these for the course of your preparation for previous days. But yeah, there is something which is important with respect to the new pattern. Even though the syllabus is not new, the pattern is new. So it is important for you to remember that the pattern is new. Before you go to the exam, you should be very clear on what are the types of questions which will be asked. You will have MCQ questions, multiple choice questions, where A, B, C, D, four options would be given. One of those would be correct. MCQ questions is important for you to be remembered, as in the significance of this particular type of question is that this will carry negative marking. No other type of pattern, no other question type will have negative marking except for MCQ type, multiple choice question type. Other than multiple choice question, you have numerical answer type question, where you will be given an input box where you'll have to put in your value. Now remember, in numerical answer type question, you will only have to answer in digits, 0 to 9 digits, and you will have point. So nothing other than that will be given. Say for example, in some calculation you're getting some answer like pi by 2. You cannot obviously type pi by 2 in the numerical answer. You have to substitute that pi is 3.14 and then simplify it and then put in the value. So you can only give numerical value into your answers, and there will be no negative marking in these questions. There is no negative marking in numerical type questions. The third question, that is uh, because I'm telling you that the pattern is new. A new type of question has been added, that is MSQ type, multiple select type questions. So remember that there is something called as multiple select type, A, B, C, D. They would obviously, this is the first time that you're getting MSQ questions, so we are not sure that if it will it be A, B, C, D or PQRS. That might change. But the point is, either one or two or three or four options would be correct. Now be clear in your mind. Many people have this misconception that many students have been thinking that multiple select question iska matlab there will be multiple answers. It's not necessary. Even in multiple select question, you can have only one correct answer. That is also possible. As per the official syllabus, it is clearly mentioned that even multiple select questions can have one correct answer. So don't think कि जबरदस्ती दो select करें. Even if you think that only one is correct, don't mark two options and come, because it is said clearly that even in multiple questions you can have single answer, single correct answer. So the point here is there is no negative marking even in these types of questions. Even in multiple select questions, you don't have any negative marking similar to numerical answer type. So it is a scoring area, but there is no partial marking too. If you partially say, for example, the answer is A and B, you just write it as A. You will not be given any partial mark. You will get 0 marks for such answers. So be very careful with this new type of question, this being the first time that you're getting such questions. Now, as far as the number of questions of each type are considered, that is not something which has been informed. Obviously we will come to know about the number of questions under each type only after the exam. So don't worry, there is some element of uncertainty even in the pattern now, but don't worry, be confident on your preparation. Don't focus much on the points which you don't know. Focus on what you know. Keep in mind that you will have these three types of questions. Never do not get nervous as to uh, when you see these new pattern of questions or MSQ type questions. So that's the second point under syllabus. Remember that the pattern is new and you will have MSQ type questions. Now, further moving into details of the syllabus. So that's a brief on the new syllabus, new pattern. Let us try to understand, coming to the important area. What are the scoring areas in terms of the syllabus? We're still in the first part, that is syllabus part. Regarding syllabus, at this point of time for your revision in your last 15 days, it is important for you to know what topics to focus on, what are the scoring areas, what you have to revise in these last few days. So that is something which you have to remember at this point of time. So let me tell you, let me just give you some brief idea as to what are some important topics. Now, obviously, nothing is certain, nothing can be guessed exactly with respect to the exam. There is a gate exam that has a lot of uncertainties in terms of weightage, in terms of important topics. But if you look into previous few years of papers, there can be some topics which you have to focus on in your last days. So let me divide this into two parts. Theory, you can make a note of them for your reference to numericals. So as far as the theory part is considered, now I'm telling you some important topics here which you have to revise in your last few days. Obviously, it's not possible for you to go through all your notes of all the sections at this point of time. So you have to revise the important topics at this point of time. So just to list down few points which you have to cover for sure. Obviously, if you have time even after covering these important topics, you can go to the other topics, lesser important topics too. But the points which I'm writing down here are something which are very important, and you have to make sure that you go through these points for sure. So as far as the theory parts are considered, firstly, you can go through at this end moment regarding design standards, because these are something, even if you know, you have to revise at your end moment, otherwise you might forget them. So understand the design standards. As far as design standards are considered, there are two main sources which you can refer to. One is National Building Code Volume 1, NBC 2016 is the latest version which you will refer to. NBC 2016 Volume 1. Under this you have Part 3, which is development control regulations. So go through this part. This part has standards like minimum size of a habitable room, minimum size of a bathroom, or minimum size or minimum height of a habitable space. You get such points under this part 3 of development control regulations. These are some points which you have to refer to in your end moment to remember the design standards. Other than this, you can also refer to the there's this handbook of CPWD. The There's the CPWD Handbook on Barrier-Free Design. So that is something which you can refer to at the CPWD Handbook on barrier-free design or barrier and accessibility. So this is something which is important for your design standards. Has questions have been asked from this handbook multiple times in recent years too. So that is something which you have to refer to in this at this point of time. Standards like what is the permissible gradient of a ramp, or what is the what should be the grab rail, what types of grab rails are to be provided, more importantly turning radius of a wheelchair and such points. Those are something which you can get from this CPWD handbook. So refer to these design standards, make a note at one point, make a note in your notebook, because it is important that you write down the points for yourselves and revise from that from your self-made notes. So that is something which you have to remember with respect to design standards. And then you should also, under theory part, you also should look into landscape part that has a lot of theory. So you can refer to garden types, design different types of garden under theory, and the landscape part, because each type of, like English garden, there are a few elements which you have to remember. Japanese garden, you have to remember points something like miniature gardens, or say use of sand and rocks to create ripples in water. It's the so you have to remember. Let me not go into the content right now, but yeah, you all know that the type of questions asked in landscape architecture, you have questions either with types of trees, the botanical names and all, types of bloom color of the respective trees, and also you get questions with respect to garden types and their elements. So go through the garden types at least at this point of time, the elements used in different types of garden. That is something which you can revise under the theory part. And you can also revise different planning models. That is also important under planning part. Various planning models and theories, concentric zone model, multiple nuclei model. What are the points under each of those theories, and who has proposed those theories? You have to remember those points under planning models and theory related to that. And with respect to standards of planning, you should have to go through URDPFI guidelines for not for planning models, but yeah, for the theory part under planning, you have to refer to URDPFI guidelines, volume 1, URDPFI guidelines of 2014, volume 1. Refer to this. there are multiple questions for theory under points from points under URDPFI, like what is a perspective plan, what is the governing authority for it. There are types of plans, scale of plans, and the governing authorities for each type of plans. So these are something which you have to remember or go through in your last moment. So these are some theory points: design standards, URDPFI standards, types of gardens, planning models. These are something which you have to refer to. And now architects and their works, buildings, that is not something which you can do in a single day. You might already have been doing for your last few days, but at this point what you can do is look into some buildings which have become popular in recent times. So some architects, Pritzker award winning architects and their works, try to go through some recent buildings, uh, at least in this last moment. So that is how you can focus on the theory part in your last few days. Other than that, coming to numerical area, now revising your numerical topics is really important. Now everyone knows that theory in gate exam cannot be defined. The boundaries cannot be defined. Theory in itself is very huge, very vast. You cannot define the boundaries. It is not possible to cover 100% of the theory, because जितना भी आप theory cover कर ले, there can be some more theory points which are out of what you have covered. So there is no boundary. But numerical content is not something like that. Some numerical content in gate exam, at least 80% of it, at least 80 to 85% of the numerical content can be predicted. This areas you will get questions related to say u value calculations in climatology, or say calculation of cooling load of a room in HVAC systems, or say calculations related to transportation, the parking models, different types of parking and parking space calculation. So you have numericals, boundaries for which can be for numerical content can be defined with a with a better what you call probability. So numerical content is something which you have to focus on, and it is coding as well. So you have to revise your numerical content at the end. So some important topics which you can cover under numerical part would be estimation and valuation mainly. You do get many questions from estimation and valuation part. In fact, even in last year 2020 papers, there are lots of questions from estimation and valuation too. So I think there is a total weightage of 6 marks from this part, only from estimation valuation. So it varies from year to year, but yeah, it is something which you have to revise at this point. Some important formulae on say what is sinking fund, or say what is a capitalized value of an asset. So such formula you have to revise. Coming to estimation, some basic formulae of some basic shapes and all. Try to understand some basic forms, uh, formulae related to pyramid, or say frustum of a pyramid and a cone. So try to revise those formulas at this end moment, at this last moment. Estimation and valuation, uh, numericals. You have to revise the numerical content of the topic of building structures. Structures can be, no, the weightage of this topic of structures might not be very huge, but the the size of this topic is also not huge. So it is precise कि इतना part से numericals आ सकते हैं. So try to go through the basic concepts of structures. What is stress, what is strain, what are bending stresses and tensile stresses, what is the flexure equation. You do get questions from flexure equation multiple times. Understanding shear force and bending moment diagrams, and how to calculate maximum shear force, maximum bending moment for some basic beams and some basic forms or structures. Try to remember or go through that, and also go through the trusses part, how to do the calculation related to trusses. That is something which you have to revise for sure, because that is a scoring area in your gate exam. Other than that, there are lots of numerical content or numerical concepts from environmental planning. That is section 4 of your old syllabus, environmental planning, which includes topics like acoustics. There are only two numerical concepts that are important from acoustics. So what you do is you have to maintain a proper note of each and every, try to write all the important formulae in one, on a piece of paper, so that just one day before the exam you have something to revise. Because otherwise what happens is, if you don't prepare a handwritten note for your end day, last one day preparation, in the last one day your anxiety levels will rise. That is obviously, that is something which you cannot avoid in most cases. There are very few people who are not anxious, who do not get nervousness one day before the exam. So to control, to tackle that nervousness one day before the exam, the best thing is you should have something to revise from. So try to maintain a piece of paper, two or three pieces of papers, where you write all the important points, theory standards, and also numerical points which I'm listing on the board. Try to maintain a self-made note so that you can revise from it in the on the last day before the exam. So that will really help you. So write down the formulas, like under acoustics you only have 2 points, like sound intensity level, 10 log I upon I reference. That is something which you have to remember. And also reverberation time is 0.16 into volume upon total absorption. So those are the only two important formula under acoustics. Same things you write on the important formula of climatology. And you all know, those who have been preparing, you do get questions not only from numericals, as in you don't only get numerical calculations from these concepts, you also get questions with respect to the measurement units. Now, even though measurement units is something which is under theory part, it is related to numerical content. So measurement units of various terms, like luminous intensity is measured in candela, luminous flux is measured in lumen, illumination or illuminance is measured in lux, luminance is measured. So try to make a note of all the important concepts of the environmental planning. Write down the important formulae. What is lux? Lux is lumen per square meter. That luminance is measured in candela per square meter. Try to make a note of the units also. Do not by heart anything, try to understand the concept, but for your end preparation, try to maintain a note of the important formula and important units in one place so that you can go through before the exam. Other than this, so that's about the architecture part. Now, coming to the planning part, you also get questions, numericals from planning part. Something which is asked in each and every paper is calculations related to FAR calculations, calculations related to housing and development controls. That is something which you have to go through at your end. Practice some questions from previous gate at least. Like you have these questions where uh, dwelling unit questions hote hai. You have either LIG, MIG, HIG in some particular ratio. FAR would be given. So you have such calculations. So that is something which you have to revise, understand how to do the calculations related to ratio, proportion, and what is FAR and FSI, how to calculate the permissible built up area and all. Try to focus on that. As you know, permissible built up area can be controlled or can be calculated either from FAR, FSI, or from ground coverage percentage, ground coverage with height. So there are these two approaches. So try to understand both the approaches, try to do the calculations related to that. You have to be confident in that area. This is something which is very frequently asked almost in each and every paper, and you should not miss out on it for sure. So that is something which you have to go through. Other than that, you can go through the parking layouts and parking formula related to parking calculations for various orientations of the car. You can calculate the required number of cars that can be parked along a given curb length. You have some formula. If you you can refer to the Facebook page of ours, Gate for Architecture. We have posted all the important formulae regarding parking also. You can take that as a reference, or you can make a note of your own and you can revise from there. And you also get numericals related to runoff calculations and the landscape architecture. So that is something which is also very frequently asked. So be sure, be confident under how to do the calculations related to runoff coefficient, calculating the volume of runoff and all. And then so even on the housing part, other than FAR, you also have some questions related to housing shortage, housing need. Try to understand those concepts. So these are the important numerical area which you have to revise in your last few days. So that's a brief idea on some important topics which you have to focus on for your revision in this last moment in the last few days. Other than that, as far as weightage is considered, let me just give you a brief idea. As you know, there is not the weightage of various topics is not fixed in the exam, but what can be observed from, if you look into last few papers, 2020, 2019, 2018, and 17, the point which you can observe is at least 3 out of these 5 years the weightage for section 1 was the highest weightage is seen for section 1 of the old syllabus. That includes topics like architectural design, architectural graphics, history of architecture, architects and the works, some important buildings, and and renowned architects, as I told you. So these are the points which have this section is something which had the maximum weightage. I think even in last year's paper in 2020, section 1 had a weightage of 19 marks. that is more than general aptitude. So I'll come to general aptitude separately. There are some points which you have to remember, but then generally section 1 has the highest weightage. But then obviously section 1 is very vast, and this is not a time where you can sit and do some a steady history of architecture by taking a huge book, something like Bannister Fletcher. But that's not practically possible. If you look into the weightage in terms of the size of the topic, I think structures is something which you should focus on. If you look into the weightage of structures, it might not seem to be very huge. It will be something like 7 marks or 8 marks, something like that. But the boundaries of the subject are well defined, concise topics. So just look into the important topics of or important formulae and concepts related to structures that can be really scoring for you in the exam. And if you look into previous paper, section one, say section one is basically architecture and design. You also, so last year, I think it was section 2 which had the highest weightage, that is BMC, and also environmental planning had a highest weightage in 2018. So the topics which are found to be of higher weightage other than section 1 are generally from the numerical part. So focus on those areas, try to look into those important topics which are scoring and which can be important for you for, for scoring well in the exam. So your focus should be only on getting a good score, nothing else, that nothing other than that. So that's a brief idea on the first part. So as I told you, we'll cover it in 4 parts. I gave you a brief idea on the syllabus, how to go about important topics and weightage of this particular part. And remember that there is this new type of question, that is MSQ in the pattern of this year's paper. Moving on to the second part, how to revise. Now, how to revise all these concepts. So, some points to keep in mind regarding the revision part, or how to recall what you have, how to streamline what you have studied. As I already told you, firstly, you have to revise the numerical concepts. Already listed down the topics for you. Revise your numerical concepts first. Revising numerical topics is something which is very important, because I know all of you might have been studying, you already have been studying for past few months, so you are clear with all your concepts. But in the end, it is important to streamline your knowledge in a way to get good scores. So to streamline, you have to revise. So revise all your concepts. Make a note, as I told you, make a last day note. Jape, you can revise your concept on the last day just before the exam. So revise all your numerical concepts. Then you have to practice jitna bhi other than revising the concepts, spend at least few hours, to say at least 3 hours each day, to attend the mock tests. So attend mock tests, practice tests from your test series and all. Make sure you practice all your mocks, and practicing mocks is not only important to revise your concepts, but this is also very important to for you to understand the interface. Understanding the interface of the exam is also something which is very important. Now, revising what you know, recalling what you know, and maintaining a note for your last day, that is obviously important. But understanding the interface also is important. I'll come to that in a while regarding interface and all. There are a few points which you have to keep in your mind with respect to the interface also. I'll come to that. But before that, you can, as I already told you with respect to revision, prepare handwritten notes of important points. Prepare a handwritten notes. This should be for your last day's preparation, so that you don't panic in the last moment. I've seen many students who are very good in performing various tests in the classwork, but they get panicked in the last moment, last 1 or 2 days. So to tackle that, it is very important that you have a handwritten notes of important points. This is especially for your last day preparation, to revise on your last day. Not obviously before you sleep, just before few hours before you sleep, but yeah, the last day. Say sixth is the exams, fifth uh, during the daytime of fifth and all. Don't know, if you don't revise, what happens is, I know there are some people who say that last day kuch nahi padhna chahiye, you should not read anything on your last day. But if you don't read, obviously, if you're really concerned about your exam, that keeps on coming to your mind. So the best thing is revise your concepts even on last day and prepare a note. Don't write new things on that day. prepare a handwritten notes for your revision of your last day. That is something which will really help you to tackle the pressure in the last on the last day, in the last moment. So these are some points which you have to remember with respect to the revision. If there is someone who did not prepare anything yet, and even I know there can be some students, not students attending coaching, but I think because this is an open webinar, there might be some students who are not preparing for past days. But if you want, or you want to know what can you do in these last few days to score well in the exam, to get best out of these last few days, you have to practice the previous gate questions at least. If you have not yet done, people associated with coaching for last few days, obviously you have been doing your previous gate questions and all already along with your classwork. But for those who did not yet look into previous gate papers, make sure you practice your previous gate sheets, previous gate questions, uh, at least for last 5 years. Make sure you practice all the questions from there. Not that questions will be repeated, but yeah, the topics will directly or indirectly be repeated. So go through your previous gate questions for the last moment if you have not yet done it. If you have already done it, focus on revising the concepts, practicing mock tests, and writing down important points for your last day handwritten notes. Other than that, coming to some important points which you have to remember with respect to the interface. Now, under interface, there are these few points which you have to remember. That firstly, Gate official Gate website has a mock test link that actually has the last year's question paper itself. But you will have an idea as to what will be the interface. Under interface, the points which you can focus on firstly is obviously the virtual calculator. You will not be allowed a scientific calculator taken with you. So scientific constant calculator would be given. So make sure look into the make sure you go through the usage of the virtual calculator and how it is. Uh, I think I see some comments. Someone is asking about the numerical part for newcomers. I think it is Mohammed Shahid Ali. What you can do is go through a YouTube channel where you're viewing this video, this webinar. There are few videos where we have practiced only the numerical part. Uh, some important concepts of numerical part. We've explained the formulae and how to apply them on questions with examples. So you can go through that for yourselves. And if you're asking about general aptitude, obviously RS Agarwal is good, but yeah, you can practice gate questions at this point of time rather than going to some standard book. That is what I think. But if you are asking about the numerical questions of architecture, go to the videos on our YouTube channel and you can practice well from that. Practice the previous gate questions for that. So as I told you, with respect to the interface, you can go through the virtual calculator mainly because the calculator which you have, which you keep using on your phone, even the scientific one, that would be different from what you get in the exam. So make sure go to the website of the gate. There are some apps as well available on Play Store, but I personally think don't rely on such third-party apps. Go to the official gate website of IIT Bombay. There is a link for mock test. Open the link. You can just click on login. You'll get the login page. There's no need to put any login values there. You can just click on login and you'll get the question paper. Last year's question paper in the format and interface of the official gate. So you can get accustomed to the interface over there. Click on the scientific calculator, do some calculations and see how it works. Use some trigonometric functions, sine, cos, tan and all. Because you apply trigonometric functions too in calculations in gate exam, right? So apply sine, cos and tan. Make sure your calculator is set into degrees, not in radians. So make sure of those finer points. Do some calculations using log function. Do some calculation where you have raised to the power something like 10 raised to the power of minus 12. ऐसे चीजें कैसे how to type it. So do some functions, type some values, and then do some calculation so that you get accustomed. You get to know how the calculator is. Spend some 15-20 minutes on that. Do not go and open the calculator for the first time on the exam directly. Get used to it. Other than that, there is one other point which you have to remember with respect to interface. Generally, the interface would be in this manner. You'll have questions displayed over here. You'll have the question panel over here where you can select the question numbers. You can select general aptitude and architecture over here. Say for example, I have selected architecture. You will get display of only one question at a time. one question at a time. Now it might take you time to click one question by question by question and to read all those questions. If you just want to get an overview, now I'll come to the order which you can I come to the order in which you can attend the questions, but then there is something called as question paper view over here. You'll get an option over here called as question paper view. You can use this to get an overall. You can scroll down through the questions to look into all the questions at a glance. So you can also make use of it. So you'll get to know those finer details of the interface of the question of the gate portal only when you go to the mock test available on the official gate website. Go to that website, click on this question paper view where you can scroll through all the questions in a single go, question by question of question paper jaisa dikhega. You can go through that to rather than reading question by question, which might take you time. You can have an overview there, come back to your question normal view, and then do your calculations. That is something which you can check right away. पहले ही जाके get used to the options given there in the interface. So focus on these question paper view, virtual calculator. Now there are these options marked for review and all. If you're confused with all that, do not. I think you can just make. You obviously will have a piece of paper for your rough work. For example, you have read question number 3 and you want to come back to this question later on. Mark for review करने से अच्छा you can just write down the question paper on your piece of paper. That can be done. If you're confused with all those green, purple, red colors available over there, if you're confused with those options there, you can just make a note on the sheet of paper. Do not remove all confusions from your mind. During exam, your focus should be only on the questions and getting a good score. So these are the points which you have to revise. So on the revision, it is not only revision of your content, it should be a revision of the exam interface, exam pattern, exam कैसे view होगा. Make sure you go through all that. Even if you're attending a mock test on our portal of career revenues, if you have registered with a test series and practicing mocks over there, the pattern, the interface available there is exactly same as the ones which you get in gate. So you can practice our mocks as well. Try to practice at least one mock each day. Ideally, it would be better if you can practice at the time of the exam. Your time is from 3 to 6 p.m., right? Try to practice a mock at least for last few days in the same time. Do not sleep in that time, 3 to 6 ke beech mein. So these are some points which you can remember with respect to the revision of your content. So streamline all your preparation. And for now, in this end moment, your focus, as I told you, should be on this part. Prepare a handwritten notes in these last 14 days. Do not, it's not necessary for you to read something new. कुछ और नया पढ़ने की जरूरत नहीं है. You have done enough. If you have been attending our classes for our students, you have already done enough of practice. You have already done enough of practice sheets, practice questions. You already have been attending exam for each and every topic. So that is, be confident with your preparation. Use your last 10 days to prepare a handwritten note which you can study for last 2 days before the exam. So that is something which you should focus on. Do not just revise the topics, prepare a proper notes from where you can revise in the last day as well. So that is with respect to revision. Moving on to the next point. So we've looked into the basic points regarding syllabus and revision tips. Now moving on to the exam, on the day of the exam. Now that is something which is most important. जितना भी प्री एग्जाम किया, that is all just for this one single day, February the 6th, right? So that day is something which is very important for us. Never get nervous, do not get nervous at all. There are some points which you have to keep in your mind for this exam day as well. So make a note if you want, and remember these points. Do not just listen and just leave them out. So right, you have to remember some points regarding the exam day as well. First and most important, understand the pattern. And the most important is remember the pattern. I already told you, you should practice your mock, you should practice your mocks, practice the mock test available on Gate portal to understand the pattern and understand the interface. But the day when you enter to the exam hall, be clear in your mind that इस type के questions आएंगे. You have to remember that you will get MCQ questions, MSQ questions, numerical questions. Uh, I'll come to your points. जो भी questions are first, just listen to me. I'll come to someone has some question. I think how to manage with your college. Uh, I think it is Brian. So Brian, what you can do is at least for this 2 weeks, try to put aside your college, try to talk to try to see how you can manage things, try to spend minimal time on your college work for at least these 2 weeks. ज़्यादा दिन की बात नहीं हो रही है, just 2 weeks, right? 10 days. At least for these 10 days, try to minimize your college work, focus on your preparation on gate exam at least, because this is something which is important for you. So as I told you regarding exam tips, on the day of the exam when you enter to the exam hall, you have to be very clear on the pattern. Do not do not forget about the new pattern of MSQ questions and MCQ questions. Be clear in your mind that you'll have these three types of questions, the pattern and the weightage, that these questions will have no negative marking, this will have negative marking. Keep all these points in your mind. I've seen many students there are many of us students even in previous times too who have scored very well but have not got a good rank because of negative marking. Don't do such mistakes. If you want, you can go through the cutoffs for last few years. You can access those cutoffs for previous few years of gate architecture from our portal. From Facebook page of ours where we have posted the cutoff marks for recent few years. Accordingly, you can prepare your mind. This should be your score. Do not just randomly answer less probable questions too, and do not end up scoring negative marks. Remember that you have negative marking only in MCQ type. So be clear with the pattern and understand the question. What you call the question types and all. That is something which you have to remember with respect to the exam. Other than that, coming to the order, now this is something which many students have a doubt on. What should be the order in which you attempt the questions? Order of attempting questions. Now this is something which is to be decided at individual level. Each student might have a particular order working for them, but uh, best thing is to regarding the order for attempting, I personally think is firstly when you enter to the exam hall, go through the question paper completely once. There is something called as question paper view, I told you, where there is no need to click multiple buttons to go to question by question. You can just go to question paper view. You can scroll down to go through all the questions at a single glance. So just go through all the questions once. Just read all your questions. You can write down on your rough work itself. You can maintain a note on what are the easy questions. So the best thing is you can have an overview of the question paper if you wish. अगर नहीं करना, it's fine. It is perfectly fine if you go question by question too. So the best strategy here would be do not do not just leave out questions, or do not look into hard questions and sit on them. Look into the first, say for example I open first question, read the question. Either you can, it would be something which is very easy for you, or it is something which is difficult for you, दो ही option होंगे, right? So if you think it is very easy, you can right away attempt it, go to the second question. Now second question, if I feel I know how to solve it but it is a lengthy question, such questions you can come back later on. There are tricky questions too in the exam. There are very lengthy questions sometimes. Some questions are easy but lengthy. You can come back to those questions always. Just make a note on your rough sheet that you should come back to. You know how to solve the second question and it is easy, but you'll come back to it later. So you can write down such questions in one note and come back to them later on. So in the first go, I personally think go through the complete. Do not work sit on such time-taking questions, because if you work on single, say 2 or 3 questions which are lengthy, you might miss out questions. You might end up not reading few questions towards the end. Go through the first question, comb through all the questions by doing the easy questions first. Come back to the lengthy questions. Then you can move to those questions which you're not sure of. So the single motive of yours should be the score. अल्टीमेटली आपको एक ही चीज चाहिए, स्कोर चाहिए, राइट? सो टू गेट अ वेरी गुड स्कोर, अगेन जनरल एप्टीट्यूड इज समथिंग विच इज वेरी इजी एंड ऑल्सो विच इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट. इसका फिक्स्ड है, 15 मार्क आना ही आना है इस टॉपिक से, राइट? इट इज वेरी इजी टू स्कोर वेल इन जनरल एप्टीट्यूड. इट इज वेरी इजी टू इन गेट पेपर. सो आई थिंक स्टार्ट विद जनरल एप्टीट्यूड. आप वैसे कर सकते, वॉट एवर यूर कंफर्टेबल विद. देयर इज नो पर्टिकुलर रूल कि इससे स्टार्ट करना है या इससे स्टार्ट करना है. द ओनली थिंग इज you should not leave out any questions. You should not leave out any easy question, to be more specific. Now coming to that, uh, remember that each and every question paper. Now बहुत लोग ऐसे बोलते हैं इस साल का पेपर बहुत डिफिकल्ट था. Last year the many students were saying this, that this year's paper was difficult, it was unexpected and all. But remember one point, जितना भी टफ पेपर हो, it will always be a combination of easy questions, mediocre or medium questions, एंड डिफिकल्ट क्वेश्चंस. हमेशा ऐसे होगा ही होगा. जितना भी डिफिकल्ट पेपर हो, it will for sure have easy questions. Your first target, as I told you in the first go, your target should be these easy questions. You should not end up leaving at least one of the easy questions. सारे easy questions आप complete करना ही करना है. So for that, as I told you in the first go through question by question, attempt the easy questions. You can come back to the medium and difficult questions later on. Read the question, understand it, identify if it is easy for you, solve it then and there if it is easy. Otherwise, you can come back obviously. If it is a lengthy question or difficult question, you can come back to it later on. So remember this point, keep in mind, okay? Do not develop this after reading few questions, do not develop this idea in your mind that this year's paper is tough. अब पहले से अपना माइंड प्रिपेयर करो कि इस साल के पेपर टफ आएगा ही आएगा. ये माइंड में रख के जाना एंड focus on the easy questions because जितना भी tough paper हो, as I told you, it will have some easy questions. Focus on those parts because to get a good score is something which is ultimately important. ये आप याद रखना और कुछ भी नहीं आपके माइंड में होना चाहिए. So remember your first target should be the easy questions, then you can move to the difficult questions and all. Now uh, as I told you, there will be time consuming questions. You should identify them. Do not fall into the trap of time consuming questions. Sometimes you will get some questions in the paper which are intended to waste your time. वैसे questions पे time waste at least starting में मत करो. You can come back to some questions might seem easier at the first go, but it will waste your time in understanding. Do not waste a lot of time on one question. If you now, let me tell you regarding time. There are 65 questions in your exam for which you will have 3 hours. So if you 180 minutes, if you divide 180 by 65, you will get around 2.7 minutes for each question. So if you think that you're spending more than 2 minutes on one question, or if you think you started to spend more than 2 minutes on a single question, you can leave it and come back to it later. Do not waste much time on a single question, even theory part. So सोचते सोचते मत रह जाना. Don't stay on a single question for a long time. Yeah, but if it is easy, spend time and complete it, but do not take more than 3 minutes for a given question. Once you're done with 3 minutes, it would be very wise for you to move on and come back to that question later on. So that is something which you can keep in your mind regarding the time. You should not take more than 3 minutes for a question. If you end up using more time on a question, just leave it for time being. You can always come back to it. And also regarding the day of the exam, when you look into the question paper, do not have favoritism. You should not have something like a favorite topic. I've seen some students that lighting and illumination is my favorite topic. ऐसे favoritism करते हैं. ऐसे this should not be in your mind. Because when you get your gate scorecard, no one will ask you whether you have solved the question from structures or not, whether you have solved the question from acoustics or not. What is important ultimately for you? Only and only score. इनफैक्ट नो वन विल इवन आस्क यू कि आपको जनरल एप्टीट्यूड में ज्यादा नंबर मिला या आर्किटेक्चर में. इवन से फॉर एग्जांपल you're scoring a total of say something like 60 marks, of which say you only scored 45 marks from architecture part, the remaining 15 marks you scored from general aptitude. 45 marks from architecture is not very huge, it is actually बहुत कम है. But then even that would be fine. No one will ask you किसमें कितना आपका है. Ultimately score is important. So don't have favoritism in topics. Don't, because if you develop this mindset that this is my favorite topic, what happens due to that is if you get a difficult question from that part, you will lose time, you will waste time. कि आपके mind में ये रहेगा कि this is my favorite topic, I'll have to do it for sure. Don't have favoritism of topics in the exam because it is very much possible that you'll get a very easy question from a topic which you don't like. आपको जो पसंद नहीं है या जो प्रिपेयर नहीं किया, there can be an easy question from that, as I told you. So your focus should be not on topics, which topic the question is from. Your focus should be on identifying if it is an easy question or a difficult question. That should be your mindset when you attend the question. Now, as far as this end moment is considered, build upon your strengths, whatever your topic of interest is. Obviously, there can be interesting topics and favorite topics. You have to build on your strengths, but don't waste much time because it is possible that you'll get difficult questions from that topics too. So be keep the time management point in your mind. You will get a better idea on the time management when you practice your mocks and all. practice the test, be clear in your mind as to what should be your target, how can you score well. So your ultimate focus should always be on score on the exam day. ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा questions attempt करो. Do not take much risk on negative marking questions. Make sure you attend all the easy questions, because every paper will have easy questions for sure, for sure. So these are these points which you have to remember while attending the question, how to attend the questions and all. As I told you, your order, it should be easy, medium, difficult. It should not be topic wise. It should not be number wise. First question करके फिर ही second जाऊँ ऐसा नहीं. Go through the questions, identify easy and score well. That is the best way you can score well in the exam. So those are the points which you have to remember with respect to the exam part. Now moving finally to some general tips. These are the, I personally think these are something which are very important. Everyone knows them, but in the end moment there should be someone who will remind you these general points. So let me remind you some general points. सबको पता होगा ये सब चीजें, but फिर भी मैं आपको याद दिला देता हूँ. Some general tips which you have to have in your mind in the last few days. First and most important, plan your day of the exam well ahead. पहले से plan कर लो. Plan your day of the exam well ahead. ऐसा नहीं होना. There should be no uncertainty left for the day of the exam. ऐसा नहीं होना चाहिए कि 6th को exam है and on the 6th 3 o'clock is the exam, right? You should not look into the address of your center on 6th morning. That you should not do. पहले से plan करो. If you can check right away, अभी से plan how will you reach there. Do you have your own mode of transportation, or will you take the help of your parents or siblings, or make sure plan your day well ahead, where your center is located or how to move, how to go over there. um, very much there's no fixed proportion obviously for easy questions किसमें ज़्यादा होंगे किसमें कम, but yeah, it depends on the overall what you call question पे. जैसे 2020 it was relatively difficult paper for most of them, so हो सकता है easy questions कम हो इसीलिए difficult लगा. Nothing is fixed though, but your idea should, because also to add to your question Garima, gateway relative score is what gives you rank. There are instances where even 65 marks out of 100, 65 is not very huge, right? Even 65 marks out of 100 would give you a rank in 2 digits. ऐसा भी situations है gate architecture में. So that is something which you have to remember. Uh, शाश्वत, you will not be given any advance time. Whatever you go through the question paper, सारी चीजें 3 घंटे में करना. Everything is within 3 hours. Nothing extra will be given for you. Uh, Kunal, yeah, they will be identified for sure. Because obviously MSQ questions have no negative marking, MCQ questions have negative marking. So it will be mentioned that this question has negative marking, this question has no negative. So no negative marking mentioned here, obviously it is MSQ type. So it will obviously be mentioned, otherwise how will you know which question has negative marking and non-negative? So it will be mentioned which is MCQ and which is MSQ type. Don't worry about that. Anyways, so plan your day of the exam. Well, I'll come to your questions towards the end. I'll give you some time to ask your questions and all. But for now, let me just complete few final points before we end. So plan your day of the exam. Plan your travel. Plan what you take to the exam and all. Plan everything well ahead. Do not have uncertainties for the day of the exam. Uh, Second and very important is to uh, control or to schedule your sleep cycles. Plan your sleep cycles, so schedule the sleep cycles well. Your exam, as you know, is from 3 p.m. to 6 p.m., right? And I know some people have this habit of sleeping after lunch. So do not have that habit at least for these last 15 days. Lunch के बाद बिल्कुल मत सोने आखिरी 15 दिन. Schedule your sleep cycles in a way that you don't sleep in this duration at least, because you might end up sleeping even on the exam day. नींद आ सकता है. So that will reduce your efficiency. So because it is post lunch, sleep is something which is very important. You know, खाने के बाद नींद आ सकता है. So plan what you eat before the exam. Don't have heavy food. Do not sleep during the exam. You should be at your best 100% efficiency. So एक चीज ये हो सकता है, अब पहले से एग्जाम के 3 or 4 days और से आप इस टाइम पे पढ़ाई करो या प्रैक्टिस करो. You can do mock tests and all in this time. Do not sleep in this duration. You have to schedule your sleep cycles in a manner. Have some healthy food. Food भी important है, not only sleep. Food, water, and sleep. These might seem very minor, but these are very important for catering to your stress during the exam. Stress control करने के लिए sleep, food and water are very important. So plan everything well. Do not have heavy food before you go for the exam. These are something which you should take care of. And also, uh, now this is easier said than done. But try to keep your cool and be confident. I know ये सब बोलना easy है, करना मुश्किल है. But see, I'm not asking you that you should not be nervous. That is inevitable. Nervousness आप मान लो जितना भी आप strong रहे, जितना भी confident रहे, you will be nervous on the day of the exam. But what you can do from your end is to reduce the stresses, at least eliminate the uncertainties. Eliminate the uncertainties, plan everything well ahead. Because what happens, you are already, your stress levels are high during the exam. That's what Nikita मैं बता रहा हूँ. You will obviously have some stress. You will be there will be some sort of panic which you may start getting before few days of the exam. That is something which you can control only by developing your confidence, practicing and revising well. Be confident. Revise करो. Idle मत बैठो परेशान होते हुए. Try to revise. That's the reason I told you to prepare a handmade note. Revise from that and eliminate unnecessary uncertainties. Eliminate the uncertainties like क्या क्या लेके जाना है. If you take your bag, will they allow you to keep your bag outside or not? Wallet कहाँ रखना है. ऐसे चीजों को परेशानी नहीं होनी चाहिए. Plan everything well ahead. Go through the instructions given on the website of Gate portal. Plan everything well ahead. Take the help of your parents or siblings also if you require, or friends if you require, and plan everything. Do not have any uncertainties left out कि end moment में और परेशानी बढ़ जाए उसकी वजह से. So be confident and keep your cool. Also, let me tell you something here. Even if you plan everything well ahead, uncertainties हो सकते हैं. It is very much possible that while writing your exam, suddenly आपका computer बंद हो जाए. ऐसा हो सकता है. Not God forbid कि ऐसे किसी के साथ भी ना हो, because that will really increase your stress levels. But पहले से ये अब याद रखो, if there is some sort of technical glitch on your computer, extra time will be provided. आपका कोई time loss नहीं होगा. There will be extra time provided by the people, 15 minutes, 10 minutes as extra time देते हैं if there is any technical issue. So do not allow such minor issues to affect or impact your performance in the exam. Be very confident. If something goes wrong, be cool. Try to cool down and try to remember that the extra time will be provided if there is any technical issue. So just call your invigilator and inform them what your issue is. Be confident. Do not panic. Exam schedule time, reach your centers, and also because the process of entry to the exam hall also is now lengthier. So there is this instructions available on the portal. There's a video also available to you on the process of entry into the laboratory exam lab. So go through the video available on the portal of Gate website. Uh, you should reach your center 1 hour before the exam, and there are list of items allowed. You can also refer to that. You can do not carry things now. Also, this is important. Water is not available at the centers. Earlier, drinking water would be provided at the centers, but because of the COVID situation, so there are some changes due to this pandemic situation. You should reach your center 1 hour before the exam. Take your own water bottle, and only transparent water bottles will be allowed. So you have to take your own mask. You will be allowed to carry a mask, a water bottle, admit card, photo ID card. ID card would be required, and a hand sanitizer. These are the Nothing other than these would be allowed, and a pen, obviously a pen or a pencil. That is up to you. So pen or a pencil, mask, water bottle, admit card, ID card, and hand sanitizer. These are the things which are allowed for you to be carried into the exam hall. Make sure you take them. Have your own mask. Take your mask. Do not get panic at the end moment over there. And also temperature check will be done due to COVID situation. If your temperature is more than 99.4 on the day of the exam, you will be required to attend the exam from an isolation compartment. एक isolated computer होगा आपके लिए. So do not worry, even if that happens. Do not panic कि क्या मेरा temperature ज़्यादा क्यों है इस time पे. Do not panic in the end moment if something happens in that way. Hopefully nothing should happen and everything should be normal. But prepare your mind for uncertainties too. Take your own water bottle, a transparent water bottle. Do not take those steel or copper water bottles, because only transparent water bottles would be allowed for you to be taken into the exam hall. So these are some general points which you have to remember. So if there is something which you people have question, I see there are some questions. Let me take some questions before I leave. Selena has a question. How can we handle MSQ questions? All your MSQ questions are wrong. Selena, firstly, MSQ questions पे. If you're not able to once you read the question, you have four options. If you're not able to identify the correct ones, obviously, first go mein our idea would be to select the correct options. If you're not able to do that, try to go by elimination method. There will be some options जो देख के समझ आते हैं आंसर नहीं हो सकता, right? You can attempt or try to do that because MSQ questions do not have negative marking. Be confident in MSQ multiple select questions because there is no negative marking. Do not leave at least एक भी MSQ question छोड़ के नहीं आना है आपको. See, न्यूमेरिकल आंसर टाइप क्वेश्चन उसमें गेस करना मुश्किल होता है. It is difficult to take guesses in numerical questions because the answer can be anything. But MSQ questions में you can take guesses because there is no negative marking. Take a guess, go by elimination method, remove those options which are not correct, and then you can try to attend them. So that's to answer your question, Sulina. Kunal has a doubt, MSQ and MCQ questions. Kunal, as I told you, MCQ and MSQ questions will be mentioned. Which question is MSQ, which question is MCQ. It would be written in the question paper. So read your question paper properly. How to control panic, ये तो मैंने बताया निकिता. Prepare a hand note, focus on your revision and try to be confident. As time passes, I'm losing motivation to revise all topics, especially theory. Please, any tips on that? Kunal or Kurul, I think it is, right? Kurul, what you can do, I've listed down some important topics in the starting of this webinar. Try to follow those, try to make a note of those points, try to revise those concepts first, and try to practice your mocks. And even if you do some mistakes in the mocks, you can read about those mistakes. That is how you can go about the end moment. Do not lose motivation. This is the most important time where you should not lose your motivation. Be confident. Prepare your handwritten notes and try to revise from that. How to cover vast theory topics while revising, Shreya. So I think you have been preparing already, right? So during your preparation, you would have some handmade notes for you, class running notes or your self-made notes. Now that notes also would be very vast, right? So go through those and go through the important points and try to make an even more smaller version of notes from that. इस time पे last minute में पढ़ने के लिए. So try to already you read a lot of things and narrow it down to some important points in your notes. Narrow it down even further and have a end moment notes for you. That is the only way you can go about. Do not start reading new topics at this point of time. That is not necessary. So Anishriti, after looking at the question paper overview, if fear develops, how to handle it? Anishriti, be confident. आपको अगर if you think that now there are some students, now it is something which everyone has to think at personal level. I told you a general idea, but then some students, if you go through the question paper in the scroll view, I told you there is scroll view of the complete question paper. If you go through the complete question paper, there will be some students who will focus only on the difficult part. उनके माइंड में इजी क्वेश्चंस दिखते नहीं है, डिफिकल्ट क्वेश्चंस रहते हैं. सो ट्राई टू ट्रेन योर माइंड. योर फोकस एज आई टोल्ड यू शुड बी ऑन स्कोर. To score well, you should attend or attempt maximum questions. So when you look into your question paper, your idea or your focus should be on identifying the easy questions. Easy questions, जितना आप अगर एग्जाम के लिए प्रिपेयर भी नहीं करे, there will be some easy questions. So your sole focus should be on identifying the easy questions and solving them. So do not allow development of fear if you, when you look into the question paper and all. So that is something which you have to remember. How to handle last minute notes for vast topics like building construction and history. Jayati, as I told you, focus on the handmade notes which you have. वो तो vast नहीं होगा. The notes which you have prepared, it will not take much time to revise from that. So you can revise from your handmade notes. That something will help you, I think. Don't start reading from a standard book at this point of time. That would be not a wise thing to do. I'm giving mocks. Zenith has this question. I'm giving mock test by, but the problem is while submitting the answers, all numerical part is showing skipped. But while reviewing it, it's showing the answer. Then if there's such technical glitch, I think it would be better if you contact our technical team. They will help out if there is some technical issue in your mock. Um, Kujal sir, as time passes and losing motivation. I think, addressed this question. Garima has a retracted message. So, Garima, if you have some question, आप पूछ सकते हैं. वैसे तो अभी दिखा नहीं रहा आपका question. How to practice aptitude in the last days. Simran, if you have the best way to practice aptitude in the last moment is to solve the previous gate questions. Try to solve the aptitude part. There will be 10 questions of general aptitude in each paper. Go through at least last 10 years of question papers of architecture and solve. So you'll have 100 questions. 100 questions solving 100 questions from general aptitude is enough of your preparation. It covers all the topics. So in the last moment, focus on if you have not done some topic yet, focus on the previous gate questions of that part in the last moment. That will help you develop confidence in that area. So similarly, you can go about previous gate questions in this last moment. Kritika, total marks. Kriti, total weightage of the exam paper is 100 marks, of which you will have 15 marks from general aptitude and 85 marks from your architecture part. So total 100 marks होंगे. That is the weightage of the question paper. uh, and you can go through the highest marks of each year that is posted on a Facebook page, Gate for Architecture. Go through that and see what are year-wise cutoff available. Year-wise cutoff is mentioned on the Facebook page of ours, Gate for Architecture. I think you'll find the link in the description too for the video later on. So you can go to our Facebook page, Gate for Architecture, and see what is year-wise cutoff of last few years. Kavi Priya has a question. Suggest me how much time will it take for go through all questions. Kavi Priya, if you're asking about previous gate questions, uh, and if you want to practice all the last 30 years of question paper, I don't think there is enough time. What you can do is you can go through at least one question paper each day. 2020 se start karo, move going backwards. Try to do at least one gate paper each day. If that is your question, how many questions to be done? So that is how you can do. And if you're asking about how much time will it take for you to answer the questions in the GATE exam, as I told you, you will have 3 hours. Spend 2.5 minutes for each question. That is the average time which is allowed for each question. Garima Joshi, if we are left with time, should we check already done questions or no negative questions? Garima, that is something which you have to decide at a personal level. Talking about my personal experience, when I was attending my GATE exam, yeah, when I had an excess time after attending all the known questions, I first answered all the questions which I know. I still had time. I have I've gone to those questions which I'm not very much confident on. That is something which you ideally should do. I don't think rechecking your question is important actually, but जब करते हैं तभी आराम से करो. Take your time. Do the calculations by taking your time, because time is not a major issue actually in the GATE exam. You will have enough time to solve all the questions. So if you're left out with time, go to those questions which don't have negative marking and try to start taking guesses in them. That would be better. Increase your score. Uh, so I don't think once you solve something, फिर से check करने की जरूरत है. Unless if you're not confident about something, try to recheck that question for sure. You can make a note. आप अपने scribble pad पे लिखते रहो जो भी question आप confident नहीं है, and you can recheck them at the end. What to do if you miss one of the section? I'm getting stressed about if I'm not able to complete PTM section. So yeah, not at all a problem. Do not read. Do not start doing something which you're not confident at this point of time. Focus on your strengths, develop on your strengths. Don't tackle your weak areas at this point of time. If you're not strong about something, just go through the simple basics of it at least, so that on the day of the exam, if you get an easy question from the SPA, as I told you, you should not have favoritism. You can get easy questions from topics which you did not do. So uske liye at least basic idea honi chahiye, but don't go to much depth if you're not confident on some section. That is something which you can do. How frequently should we solve mocks? Solving mocks every day takes a lot of time and we get less time to revise. Anushika, weekly you can target at least 3 mocks for the left out days. 5 दिन में एक mock up कर सकते. You can do one mock every 5 days. That is more than enough actually. Remaining time spent on practicing gate questions and revising your topics. That should be your main focus. Um, Kural, can we take guesses in MCQs? Like if we know that two options are eliminated between the left house, can we take guess? Kural, that is something up to you actually. You can obviously take a guess, but take a educated guess. It's a random name. जैसे आपने बताया, you can eliminate two options. Then you can try to arrive at the probability. If you're not 100% sure, if you're 80% sure, probably you can take that risk. So take risk, but not randomly. Try to check कितना chance आपको लग रहा है वो सही होने का. Then you can take a guess. Take an educated guess, but not random guesses. For numerical, how to take care of accuracy. Kashyap, regarding the numerical questions, one point you will have to remember with respect to numerical answer type questions, the point you have to remember is when you solve the question, do not round off the numbers. For example, in the due course of calculation, you're getting some value like 8.6532, and you have to do some operations after this. You have to divide this by 3.14, for example. Do not round off this midway of your calculation. Do not take this as 8.6 divided by 3.1. I say round off mat karo. Take at least 4 digits after the decimal point in your calculations. Answer B, देते हुए round off to 2 digits in the last step. In the last step, you can round off to two decimal points, but rounding off something midway, round off to at least four decimals after the decimal point. That will maintain your accuracy in the questions. Nishwar Teja has a doubt, sir. Can the attempted questions be changed in the provided time before submitting? Obviously, Ishwar, you can change your answers n number of times. जितने बार आप change, you can change your answers before the exam time is done. If you write something, you can always change your answer before the time of the exam. Himanshi, sir, mock tests have many difficult questions when compared to previous year gate paper, so the level is same as gate. I'm getting some wrong, getting nervous. Himanshi, the idea of our mock tests of career revenues is to make you prepare for adversities. Because when you attend a mock, if we give you an easy paper, there will be this ideology developed in the student that the paper would be easy. वो अच्छा नहीं होता है because it will increase the panic levels on the day of the exam. So we try from our end to make sure that you prepare your mind that the exam paper will be very tough. इस level से ये mindset से आप जाएंगे, that will make your exam day easier and less panicky. Panicness come होगा. That's the idea. So don't worry if you're scoring low. Not at all a worry. Gate paper will be the level of gate paper will be easier than a mock test for sure. We have made sure that you have lots of difficult questions in the recent mock. So don't worry about that. Don't worry on your performance in the mock test. Your only idea should be to score well on the day of the exam. बस इस चीज को आप याद रखो, ध्यान रखो mind में. Lastly, tell about your personal experience, like how did you attempt questions, what mistakes did you did personally? It would be helpful, sir. Okay, Kuril, towards the end, I'll come to that. मेरा experience बताता हूँ मैं. Have you cracked gate in single attempt? You did multiple attempts. Question is out of the topic. Okay, Sai Babu, ये भी personal चीज. I'll tell you about my personal experience towards the end for sure. Let me look into the other questions actually. Aptitude syllabus has been changed. How to practice new questions introduced in the aptitude part. There's the special aptitude which is new, I think, Nikita. If you are from our coaching, I think we have already gave you practice questions from that part as well. Otherwise, if you're not from a coaching, I think what you can do is try to find the questions from that particular topic online. Try to practice some questions. That's the best way you can go about it. Whatever topic has been introduced, try to Google some online sheets, online practice questions on that topic. Try to practice those questions. That will develop your confidence. Uh, Gauri, see, sir, it seems everything is mixed up. And understand what you're trying to say, Gauri. Everything is mixed up, matlab. If you're talking about topics, do not get confused. Don't create what you call, don't mix up things in your mind. Try to focus, try to have your cool, try to focus and try to maintain your hand notes as I told you. So mix up nahi hoga usse. When you go topic by topic and maintain a proper notes of your own, that will reduce this panicness which you're talking about. Uh, if we have attempted a question but feel it's wrong, can I deselect and leave it blank? Yeah, Hiral, you will have that option to delete whatever you have attempted to. ये सब चीजें आपको to develop to know to get assurity on these points. Go to the online mock test available on the Gate portal. Look into the mock test available there so that you understand your interface well. The paper we get has questions randomly sequenced. They don't have questions in sequence of marks. Kunal, yeah, you will have it in order. You will have 1 mark questions first, then you'll have 2 marks questions. Now, 1 mark questions can have MCQ questions, can have MSQ questions, can have NAT questions. 2 marks questions can also have MCQ questions, MSQ questions, and NAT questions. But the order will be 1 mark, then 2 mark. Question paper will be in that manner, most probably. Again, even to get assurity on this, go through the gate mock test available. Whatever will be there, the same thing will be available for you in the exam also. So, yeah, Kuril, even gloves are permitted in the exam. That's correct. So before I end, a brief on my experience with GATE exam. I've attended GATE only once, obviously, but yeah, I am in touch with students attending GATE for last 5 years. I have cleared my GATE in first attempt in 2016. I've scored All India rank 24. That was my first attempt and also my last attempt. I limited myself to only guiding students but not attending the exam again and again. So that was my experience, and I could do well on my first attempt only because I was cool. Do not allow panicness. Do not allow your anxiety to take over. You should be very confident on your exam day. You should not have this anxiety on the day of the exam. That can be only eliminated when you're confident, when you're when you have sufficient practice. You've done enough of your hard work. Be confident on your preparation. You've practiced more than 1,000 questions. ये चीज आप याद रखो कि you should be confident on the day of the exam, and remember that this is not the end. uh, and be confident firstly. आप ये confidence मत lose करो. That is something which is the most crucial thing. जितना preparation important है, उससे ज्यादा it is the being cool on the day of the exam, not allowing anxiety to take over you, is more important than your last 1 year's preparation. So you can be you can control your anxiety only when you practice and when you have your good revision important है. Maintain your hand note as a tool and revise all your concepts at the end. And even after that, if you're not able to control your anxiety, if you're still uh, having doubts as to how to tackle the pressure in the end, we are always here to help you. Get in touch with us. We will, if required, we can also discuss over the phone. phone पे भी बात कर सकते हैं. Do not allow anxiety to take over your confidence. Be confident. आपको दिक्कत लग रहा है, you can always get in touch and then talk with us. So we are always here to guide you. So with that, let us end this session. Focus on your practice and you can always get in touch with us, whatever guidance you require and all. Yeah, after the gate exam, we will. So the point for now is, abhi mat socho. We will have a post-gate counseling. Probably it will be an online thing because because we are having online classes this year. So we'll have an online post-gate counseling session where we will tell you कि exam के बाद क्या करना है. What are the options available? What are the applications which you should do? We will give you complete guidance with us. Just keep following us. We will schedule a session for that. During the exam, just go through all sections, questions. How much time will it take? 5 minutes to 10 minutes. Uh, Kavipriya, actually, as I told you, read the question, solve the easy questions in the first go itself. Don't leave. ऐसा मत करो कि पूरा question paper पढ़ रहे हैं. Read the question. If it is easy, attempt it. If it is not easy, you can come back to it later on. So that is the best way to do. So that's it. Be confident on your preparation. Get in touch with us for any further guidance. And all the best. Be cool. And that is the most important thing for your exam. All the best for your exam and do well. Bye, and we will meet again.